And many years ASPL is providing quality medicine and every corner of the country, along with the most updated scientific information, research awareness, and all others research tools care to build a healthy nation. You know, sir, very that they held up the always renowned vaccine producer MSD USA, and recently with world-class human insulin provider Eli. Moreover, our robust and best bioequivalent rosuvastatin and trimetazidine preparation, I do believe the oncoming days, your support will be with us. I shall not longer my speech anymore. Thanks to all, and also again our honorable learned speaker, Mominuzzaman sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks to all. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you, Bishwajit Da. We'll now hand over the floor to our honorable speaker today, famous cardiologist, Dr. Mominuzzaman. You are welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Milton. Now it is 11:12. Maybe I'll take about 15 to 20 minutes to finish my talk. And thank you very much for the appreciation that you have made. Actually, I am now totally inactive person. Ideally, I'm not doing anything for last 2 months only, or more on this. Anyway, we are now passing very hard time. The term lockdown, isolation, quarantine, all are a part of our life. An unknown enemy actually shattered the whole world, the coronavirus. And every day, the number of deaths is increasing, and we are afraid of where will be my number. As we know little about the disease itself, coronavirus, there is no guideline yet for the management, and there is no standard protocol for the treatment. So to thank the Foundation for Doctor Safety, Right and Responsibilities with the co-partner BD Physician and sponsored by Healthcare Pharmaceutical to given a wonderful opportunity and a platform to exchange our views, share our experience and knowledge from the expert all over the world, so that it will increase our knowledge in individual level. To that extent, we can help our patient. And with few, I like to start my talk. And I'll say something about the basic of coronavirus. Then I'll confine mostly on cardiovascular effect of COVID. And is the facts and concept of cardiovascular disease in the era of COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, COVID virus is a very large family of virus of usually causes mild illness like common cold to a severe illness like MARS and SARS. Although this COVID coronavirus was very new in human, but the WHO recommend its name as coronavirus disease or COVID-19, and the virus name is SARS-CoV-2 because it has shown that it has got 90% nucleotide identity in its sequence with the SARS virus. If you look at the history, it started on 30th December 2009, first reported case, and then after 1 month, almost at 30th January, WHO recommended as a health emergency. And in 11th March, WHO recommended as a pandemic. In Bangladesh, the first case appeared on 7th March 2020. And we started lockdown on 24th. If you see the lockdown scenario is more or less similar to China, almost 20 days, 24 days in China. In our most early maybe it is around 15 days. So far, worldwide, more than 50 lakh people affected and more than 3.4 lakh patients died. In Bangladesh, first case detected on 7th March, and on 77th day, means that's day before, yesterday, more than 30,000 patients affected and about 400 patients died. So this was the scenario. Now, if you think about how it transmits, it's a viral disease, direct contact transmission to a affected person through their cough, sneeze in a form of droplet or nuclei, and it enters in the mucosa of the mouth, nose, and eyes. There may be indirect transmission with an environment being infected by the person. There are some other special situations. There may be airborne transmission, like administration of nebulization, manual ventilation, non-invasive ventilation, intubation, bronchoscopy. All these things usually happen within the confined space, especially in CCU or HTO. Rarely there may be orophageal transmission. But as usual, the viral symptom is not that serious form. It is commonly present with fever, cough, breathlessness, and less commonly malaise, headache, sore throat, fatigue, anosmia, diarrhea, etc. But it's in case of COVID-19, the presentation varies from mild to critical. Mostly mild, about 80% in the form of flu-like symptom, cough, fever, sore throat, malaise, fatigue. There may be a moderate symptom in a patient with pneumonia only on X-ray or CT scan, but there is no shortness of breath and usually accompanied by fever and cough. It accounts about 5 to 10%. More serious form is the severe pneumonia, as evident increased rate of respiration more than 30 or SpO2 less than 39 and 93. It accounts about 5 to 10%. And remaining 5% is very critical, being complicated with ARDS, septic shock, or multi-organ failure. The virus can affect anybody, means that all people are at risk of to be infected if they come in contact with the contact person. But not all patients are of severe symptom. Our symptom may not be similar to all patients, but the serious and severe form of symptom usually happen in elderly people, patients with comorbidity like hypertension, diabetes, COPD, cardiovascular disease, some immunocompromised people, pregnancy, and obesity. And because of the fear of the disease, everybody might think that I know and to check my throat swab or nasal swab, whether I am infected or not. Yes, from the epidemiological point of view, it's okay. But from the clinical point of view and management, there should be prioritized about who are the person need to be tested because of the constraint of the facilities. So there should be a first priority, patients who are critically ill with unexplained pneumonia and respiratory distress, or individual with fever or sign symptom of lower respiratory tract who has close contact COVID positive patient within 14 days of symptom, or individual with fever or sign symptom of respiratory tract infection who travel within 14 days of symptom onset to an area where there was sustained community transmission. There may be an individual with fever and sign symptom of lower respiratory tract with immunocompromise, with old age having chronic health issue. Some individual, especially the individual with who are the frontline fighter of COVID patient like doctor, nurse, pharmaceutical, public health worker, if they have got fever or sign symptom of respiratory infection, should be priority as a first priority to test for COVID. The second priority is the symptomatic residence for long time in the hospital other than ICU. Third priority is a flu-like symptom with comorbidity like diabetes, COPD, heart failure, pregnancy, women, etc. And fourth priority, the person involved in data collection study. Now, once the virus been infected by the virus to the person, how it happened? What it causes? It directly attacks the tissue or cell through its spike protein receptor with the body receptor endothelium mucosal endothelium cell by ACE receptor that fit with this and internalize this virus within the body where they multiply and spread all over the body. There may be indirect attack to the organ by the way of collateral damage by the cytokine storm being released secondary to the viral infection. And there may be also indirect damage by means of micro or macrovascular clot as a part of systemic coagulopathy triggered by endothelial injury and cytokine storm. There is also indirect damage caused by low oxygen, inappropriate ventilator setup, and also the drug side effects individually or in combination can affect the human body. In a group of patients in Italy, they have done autopsy. They showed that there is diffuse alveolar damage with microvascular and thromboembolism. And the alveoli is filled with fluid, protein, WBC, debris, and thus increases the gas exchanging barrier. The virus particles, they also form in nose, throat, tear, stool, kidney, liver, pancreas, heart, brain, and CSF. The feature of coagulopathy also been evident by deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, stroke, acute limb ischemia, etc. So these were the autopsy findings. And clinicopathologically, Siddiqui and Mehra made a schematic diagram of the stages of the disease in the early stage in response to the viral infection with mild constitutional symptoms like dry cough, diarrhea, headache. And if you do investigation, there may be lymphopenia, there may be increased bleeding time, prothrombin time, D-dimer may increase. The second phase is the pulmonary phase, where the patient usually complain of shortness of breath is because of the pneumonia affected mostly the periphery bilaterally if you see by CT scan. And this is the feature because of the combination of viral response and host immune response. The third stage is the hyperinflammation stage, and it is totally because of host immune inflammatory response phase. And it is presented as a ARDS, shock, cardiac failure, etc. And if you do some investigation like CRP, LDAs, interleukin 6, D-dimer, ferritin, troponin, and BNP or pro-BNP all are elevated. That indicate there is an immune response secondary to viral infection. Now the question comes, what happens if somebody has got COVID infection and cardiovascular disease? It can affect a molecular level in different way. Directly, it affects the myocardium through its receptor ACE. There may be saltwater retention, sympathetic activation, cytokine release, vasculitis, and hypercoagulopathy, pneumonia, ARDS, systemic infection. All these things may cause myocardial instability in the form of supply-demand producing ischemia. There may be arrhythmia. There may be heart failure. But what is the implication? If the COVID-19 is present with cardiac diseases that increase the fatality. And also, if COVID is associated with multiple direct and indirect cardiovascular complications, include myocarditis, arrhythmia, thromboembolic complication. There is also COVID-19 therapy undergoing investigation can also have got the cardiovascular side effect. And finally, the healthcare service provider who are at risk of the infection. Now, the spectrum of cardiovascular involvement may be of different varieties, like they can be asymptomatic, but with elevated biomarker like troponin I level may increase. There may be acute coronary syndrome, AMI. There may be cardiomyopathy, arrhythmia, heart failure. There may be myocarditis, pericarditis. There may be also fulminating myocarditis and cardiology. The problem is that the recommendation for SCS management is challenging. The reason is this: there is a wide varieties of COVID patients that mimic acute coronary syndrome because of acute myocarditis, type 1 acute MI, type 2 acute MI, type 1 MI with coagulopathy, stress cardiomyopathy, or Takotsubo syndrome, coronary spasm, myocardial injury without documented type 1 MI, that all mimic acute coronary syndrome. But that is confusing in the sense that whether it's really acute coronary syndrome or secondary to COVID-19. There is also another problem: is prevalence of COVID-19 remain unknown, inadequate test for COVID, absence of rapid testing. Patient with positive COVID can be asymptomatic despite abnormal CT scan and a person for potential transmission of the disease. So very difficult to make a guideline for the management of acute coronary syndrome patient with COVID. In one study that has been seen in Spain, on study on 71 hospitals, there is 57% reduction in diagnostic procedure like angiogram. There's 48% reduction in elective PCI. There's 81% reduction in structural heart disease intervention, and 40% reduction in primary angioplasty for STMI. Does it mean that the disease has gone down? Not really. It is because the patient usually don't come to the hospital in fear of the infection or because of the lockdown. So in one study in Wuhan, it has been seen that among the patients admitted with COVID, 58% had hypertension, 25% had heart disease, 44% had arrhythmia, and mortality rate of 35% had 17% coronary disease. Thus, the patient with underlying cardiovascular disease can aggravate and increase the severity of the symptom and might act as a precipitating factor to worsen the condition, lead to death. There is one interesting finding we have seen. The data have shown that in Italy, there was 30% increase in the incidence of Kawasaki-like disease. It's a cluster of children and adolescents, average age of 7.5 years, admitted in ICU with Kawasaki-like and toxic shock syndrome, also called pediatric inflammatory multisystem syndrome. It is a multisystem inflammatory state, evident by fever, rash, red eyes, mucocutaneous inflammatory sign, and like swollen lip, tongue, hand, and feet, and blood vessels swollen with a feature of vasculitis. Although it is usual, but about 25% patient may complicate it as aortic, as coronary aneurysm in long run. So they have made a criteria for the diagnosis of this sort of children and adolescents. If they have got fever for 3 days, along with two of the following, like bilateral non-purulent conjunctivitis or mucocutaneous inflammatory sign. Number 2, shock or hypotension. Number 3, feature of myocardial dysfunction with raised troponin or NT-proBNP, with evidence of coagulopathy as evident by raised APTT, PT, or D-dimer, or acute gastrointestinal symptom like diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain. Any two of these 5, along with the evidence of elevated inflammatory marker like raised ESR, CRP, procalcitonin, and patient with positive COVID, evident by RT-PCR or antibody or antigen test, with the absence of other evidence of infection, can be diagnosed as Kawasaki disease. Now come to the management of patient with COVID. There is some general management for all patients. And as I've been asked to talk on the COVID patient with cardiovascular, so my talk will be combination of these two. The first is the patient with stable cardiovascular disease, with or without COVID positive, remain at home to avoid unnecessary hospitalization. Mind it, stable cardiovascular condition. But patient with diagnosed COVID with severe cardiovascular condition should be isolated in the hospital under the guidance of a cardiologist. And if they need intervention, they should be go for intervention with proper protection of the operator and the co-worker for the procedure in cath lab. We nowadays come across to deal some of the clinical situation like pre-existing cardiovascular disease with fever. The patient with heart disease having fever and cough should first go through fever clinic, check routine blood test, assess contact travel history, X-ray chest or CT scan. If they show them, that should be prioritized. If the consultant see the patient from a remote place by using or physically by using PPE to identify which one is the priority. Is it COVID symptom priority or a cardiovascular priority? On that basis, they will differentiate whether the patient need hospitalization or to be at home. And if patient excluded COVID should be transferred to the general emergency and outpatient. Now, in general principle is for the management of acute coronary syndrome patient, encourage all patients to seek and receive treatment from nearby medical center to minimize transfer. Secondly, if the patient is diagnosed undoubtedly as STMI, he should be hospitalized and be thrombolized within 10 minutes if not contraindicated. There should be a conservative approach for the non-STMI patient with proper risk stratification, especially for very high risk and intermediate risk versus low risk. And they should be treated with low molecular heparin, dual antiplatelet, nitrate, beta blocker, and as far as possible, early discharge if possible. If the patient is of high risk or intermediate risk, they should be transferred to a place where the COVID designated hospital along with the advanced treatment facilities, including intervention. In some cases, this patient can also be monitored by virtual consultation like telemedicine and by using proper PPE. And one thing must be keep in mind, the personal protection equipment should be class 2 for all healthcare, including nurse and doctors. Bangladesh Cardiac Society recommended the management of acute coronary syndrome in the form of the all ACS patients should not be diagnosed solely on the basis of troponin I value. Acute coronary syndrome, once diagnosed, should manage as per standard protocol with dual antiplatelet, statin, reperfusion therapy, etc. STMI patients should be thrombolized as early as possible. There is a simple straightforward algorithm. If clinically and ECG finding of definite STMI, the patient should confirm by echocardiography whether there is regional wall motion or not. If positive, then should be like do thrombolytics. If failed, then rescue PCI. If the patient is been proven is non-COVID, then they should be go for primary PCI, keeping in mind every new patient can be infected until being tested. Commonly fibrinolytic agent nowadays, we are using streptokinin, kinase, but it is preferable to use a fibrin specific like tenecteplase, and it should be given within 10 minutes after admission. And in elderly patient, the dose can be reduced by 50% if it's more than 75 years old. There is another group of patients with COVID-19 is called heart patient, because the COVID infecting heart failure patient may have severe presentation due to advances with severe comorbidity. And ambulatory patient with heart failure should remain at home and consult virtually by telemedicine. The guideline directed for this patient like beta blocker, ARNI, ACE inhibitor, aldosterone antagonist should continue in irrespective of COVID positive or negative. There is a subgroup of patients with COVID-19 presented with a global decrease in EF on echocardiography with a clinical sign symptom of cardiogenic shock, elevated cardiac marker without past history of systolic dysfunction can present as acute heart failure. And the population at risk of heart failure with are of pre-existing hypertension, poor LV function, atrial fibrillation, and certain other drug, including NSAID, Loprivan, or Ritonavir. There is one interesting finding that has been shown clinically and by autopsy that there is a state of hypercoagulable state. So is it a prothrombotic situation? Because it is the interaction between the cellular and plasma element of the hemostatic system causing hypercoagulable state. There is the expression of a tissue factor and activation of extrinsic coagulation cascade, high level of circulatory kinase, directly damage endothelium and activate coagulation cascade. There is pulmonary fibrinolysis, activation of platelet, endothelial dysfunction, leukocyte activation, all predisposed to clot formation, as evident by increased D-dimer in this sort of patient. There is also decrease in venous flow, especially in hospitalized patients. So there is another study in Italy, Milan. They've shown that there is 7.7% patient having thromboembolic event. Of this, deep vein thrombosis was 60% and pulmonary embolism was 35%. So all patients with COVID-19 should undergo coagulation study at admission, particularly D-dimer, prothrombin time, and platelet count. International Society on Thrombosis and Hemostasis, they have a guideline that if somebody has D-dimer 3 to 4 times, prothrombin time prolonged, or platelet less than 1 lakh, should get admission in the hospital, even in the absence of other concerned symptoms. Dutch recommend on the basis of D-dimer level. In general, all hospitalized patients should get prophylactic low molecular weight heparin. And therapeutic dose of low molecular weight heparin can be given in patients with documented pulmonary embolism. The guide for this prophylaxis or D-dimer depends on the D-dimer level. If it is less than 1000, it should be prophylactic. If it is more than 200 to 400, should go therapeutic dose. But in between, this person should get prophylactic, but keep in mind on this clinical condition. WHO recommend the prophylactic low molecular weight heparin as a and also there is extended prophylaxis even after discharge of the patient for up to 45 days with low molecular weight heparin or oral anticoagulant like rivaroxaban. There is certain issue also should be concerned about the drug already the patient is getting because of cardiovascular disease and drug related to COVID treatment. As a rule, there is no need to change their cardiac drug already on, like antihypertensive, anti-failure, ACE inhibitor, ARB, statin, aspirin, clopidogrel, anticoagulant should be continued. Beta blocker is preferable to selective beta blocker. And NSAID, it is reasonable to avoid because of its conflicting evidence. The antibiotic azithromycin, fluoroquinolone, chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, all increases QT interval and has got a toxicity quantity. So before prescribing this drug, one should be think about existing QRS duration and also QT interval. There are some antibiotics like vancomycin can increase histamine release and cause hypotension. Interferon, sometimes used, is a toxic to heart and causes conduction disturbance. And lopinavir or ritonavir, prolonged QT interval causes bradycardia, even complete heart block, cardiomyopathy, and lipid dyspnea and initiate coronary disease. Though this drug should be kept in mind while prescribing a patient with COVID-19. Whatever the way, ultimately few percentage of patients will die, and usually it is multifactorial like pneumonia, respiratory failure, ARDS, metabolic derangement, acute kidney disease, acute cardiac injury. And you have seen this slide that although the COVID is compared with March, mortality is almost 34%, but COVID has got a mortality 2.2 to 3%, but that varies. More the age, mortality is high, even as much as 60% if the patient is more than 85 years old. And also, the mortality is very high if the patient is on ventilator, more than 80%. So in conclusion, I want to say that the COVID patients are manifest with ST elevation in the absence of obstructive coronary. The inappropriate clinical background, ST segment elevation in ECG, and significant rise of troponin more than 5 times may indicate acute coronary, acute STMI. Echocardiography and CT scan can rule out differential diagnosis, especially non-STMI. To avoid unnecessary coronary angiogram during the acute illness, hemodynamically stable patient with COVID-19 and possibly MI may be best managed conservatively, invasive procedure deferred until the COVID recovery. We're still learning how to adequately manage COVID, but the increasing experience shared by the extremely dedicated and selfless healthcare professional is sure to make us more confident to overcome this pandemic situation. It's immense important to use proper PPE to all healthcare workers handling patient with COVID in this pandemic situation to reserve and to protect the healthcare provider. The main principle is to avoid to be infected during this pandemic with proper practicing the norm to control the risk of transmission, to limit the infection spread among other persons and healthcare professionals. Thank you very much.
Mute করে নি। না না, thank you মোহন ভাই।
Extend by unmute, please.
হ্যাঁ, না না, I did unmute করেছি। না, thank you very much.
Almost half an hour.
না না না, that's মানে within reach. আমরা কিছু প্রশ্নও পেয়েছি মোহন ভাই। So shall we just go and ask?
Yes.
আচ্ছা, একজন নাবিল ইবনে নোমান জিজ্ঞেস করেছেন, what is the role of a cardiologist in COVID-19 patients management or prevention?
It is, although the COVID patient nowadays been managed with non-cardiologist, but if the non-cardiologist is skilled to at least identify the patient to have got associated cardiovascular problem along with COVID, then they should consult with the cardiologist. He will assess the situation whether usually is the present with either acute coronary syndrome or exacerbation of heart failure or feature of thromboembolism. So either they can directly involve with the treatment with an intensivist with the proper use of PPE, or they can guide them by telemedicine to person who involved in the frontline treatment for the patient, COVID patient associated with cardiovascular disease. Not necessarily they need to be in the ICU. They can by telemedicine because they can see the patient, they can see the investigation already done, and they can communicate with the intensivist working in CCU or ICU. So they can plan and guide the ICU specialist regarding the further management.
No, thank you. I think you got your answer. আমাদের সাথে আছেন ডক্টর শোয়েব আহমেদ, অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট প্রফেসর অফ কার্ডিওলজি, সিলেট ওসমানী মেডিকেল কলেজ। Shoaib Ahmed, he wants to ask a question, I guess.
Sure.
Ji.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I thanks our renowned cardiologist Mominajaman sir. He's known by his name, everyone in our country, and he's and internationally. Sir, for my first question, sir, how could we differentiate ACS and myocarditis in these conditions and in COVID situation?
Yeah, thank you, Shoaib. Actually, this is just challenging, as I said, that mimicry. There is a good number of patients present with feature of acute coronary syndrome, but don't have truly acute coronary syndrome, because they may have ST elevation, they may have troponin raise. Here, I should be more emphasis on clinical situation rather than troponin alone. Yes, troponin is important, but it should be more than 5 times than normal in patient with COVID along with acute coronary syndrome. Associate with ECG changes. Although ECG change, acute coronary syndrome, if it is a straightforward ST elevation, then you can think about ST elevated MI along with the sign symptom. You can also take additional help of echocardiography to see the regional wall motion. Keep in mind that echocardiography has got limitations to be used in patient with COVID positive. So he must have well protected PPE. For the treatment planning, you need to do an echocardiography. If you see the regional wall motion, which is more in favor of acute coronary syndrome, rather than a global, which is a myocarditis due to COVID. So this way you can differentiate these two. Even then, there is a fallacy because it has shown that in Milan also, the patient having feature of acute coronary syndrome, especially ST elevated MI, underwent coronary angiogram, 40% patients don't have any coronary lesion or non-critical lesion. That indicates this is not truly acute coronary syndrome. It is a feature of some form of vasculitis or hypercoagulable state that leads to acute coronary syndrome. That's why they said it's a type 2 MI. So this way you can differentiate acute coronary syndrome, especially ST elevated MI, versus myocarditis related to COVID-19.
Thank you, sir. So my another question: stress cardiomyopathy, Takotsubo syndrome, or Kawasaki disease in children and adolescents. How much prevalence in our country, and how can we diagnose it?
Truly, we don't have any data in Kawasaki disease. And as we are practicing adult cardiology, so I have never seen any patient. Probably pediatrician can see few Kawasaki disease. And definitely it is all the information being got from the Western paper that each presentation has increased in 30 times. So it may be the feature related to any viral infection that trigger this sort of presentation in adolescents and children. Regarding Takotsubo syndrome, it is basically related to sympathetic overdrive situation, where also you will not get any coronary artery disease, but there is definitely ST elevated MI, but normal coronary. So this is also not truly been identified in terms of prevalence in our country.
Thank you, sir. My another
Thank
question,
you, Shoaib bhai.
sir, about oral anticoagulant. So there is different opinion. Which patient will get oral integral in hospital setting or a house in his house
In-
setting?
In hospital setting, yes, in hospital setting with moderate to severe patient, all should get low molecular weight heparin if their D dimer is less than 1000. It has been guided by Dutch guideline. And WHO also recommended extended anticoagulation after even discharge from the hospital. And they said two forms, either OD dose of low molecular heparin or oral any NOAC, right, rivaroxaban milligram daily. This is the standard up to 45 days. This is the
Thank you,
recommendation being
Shoaib
given by
bhai.
WHO.
ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ শোয়েব ভাই। আমাদের অনেকগুলো প্রশ্ন জমা হয়ে আছে, আমরা একটু যেহেতু জুমার নামাজের ব্যাপারটা আমাদের মাথায় রাখতে হচ্ছে, আমরা আমাদের হাসিবুর রহমান একটি প্রশ্ন করেছেন, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার ফর ইউর বিউটিফুল প্রেজেন্টেশন। ইজ দেয়ার এনি রেগুলার কার্ডিয়াক ড্রাগস need to modify during corona crisis?
That's a good question. So far, you don't need to modify any drug for cardiovascular patient on being medicated previously in a situation with COVID-19. But there are some drugs, as I said, needs to be keep in mind while prescribing in COVID patient. With the patient existing any conduction defect, if they get some drug like lopinavir or ritonavir, that can prolong QT. Then hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine, that can increase QT time. So these are the drugs usually you don't give blindly, rather than you think twice before giving this drug if the patient has already got some form of conduction disturbance. Otherwise, commonly used drug you can continue in general.
ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ। আমাদের নেক্সট কোশ্চেনটা করেছেন হেলথ কেয়ার ফার্মাসিউটিক্যালস এর এক্সিকিউটিভ ডিরেক্টর MH Murtaza. Does COVID hospital has cardiologist in their team? In case of patients with CBD symptoms, how do you assess the patient as COVID or non-COVID?
I'm not clear about the question, but I understand one part that whether the team should include cardiologists or not. Yes, if the patient, COVID patient, is associated with severe cardiovascular problem, moderate to severe cardiovascular problem, there should be dual consultation with cardiologist and intensivist. And if necessary, if they need any invasive procedure like intervention, that part should be done by cardiologist with the proper use of PPE.
The second part is basically, if I understand correctly, is if a patient coming with CBD symptoms, how do you assess whether he has coronavirus or not?
Yes,
Sort of.
usual practice is that is the issue that the patient, the history is very important. If somebody has got cough, fever, sore throat, whatever is the symptom, means that some form of viral fever along with chest pain or anything, they should go through first fever clinic with preliminary investigation of X-ray, CT chest, some blood test to rule out that it is there is no pneumonia. If there is anything suspicion, they should be treated as patient positive, COVID positive patient with proper utilization of PPE by the cardiologist, either in the COVID isolated unit or in COVID facility, Prevail Hospital, any places, either CCU or HDU. But they should be isolated and under the coverage of a cardiologist. If they need any invasive procedure, they should go for the procedure.
Okay, thank you. What I understand, Momin bhai, is যখন কোনো ফ্যাসিলিটিস টেস্ট ফ্যাসিলিটিস থাকবে না, অ্যাটলিস্ট পিসিআর বা কোনোভাবে টেস্ট করতে পারছি না, তখন ক্লিনিক্যাল জাজমেন্ট উইল কাম
And you
ইনটু
should
প্লে।
consider all patient
হ্যাঁ।
positive COVID.
হ্যাঁ, এবং সাসপেক্টেড পেশেন্ট শুড বি ট্রিটেড অ্যাজ দেয়ার
As
কোভিড
COVID.
পেশেন্ট।
Yes,
এটা
yes,
একটা
yes.
টেক হোম মেসেজ ফর অল অফ আস আর কি। ওসমান ফরিদ ভাই একটা প্রশ্ন করেছেন, রিলেশনশিপ বিটুইন ইনফ্লুয়েঞ্জা and CBD, should influenza vaccine be given?
Yeah, there is no contraindication of influenza with the cardiovascular disease. Rather, in the patient, especially with heart failure, they are prone to develop the yearly flu-like symptoms. So they should be prophylactically vaccinated with influenza vaccine, pneumonia vaccine in heart failure patient. Where this patient usually deteriorate once they are been affected by any infection. And flu is the common infection that happen usually during the winter season. So just to avoid this sort of symptom, one should be vaccinated with influenza vaccine and also pneumonia vaccine. The influenza yearly and pneumococcal vaccine every 5 years, especially in heart failure patient. And I don't think there has got any relation like ischemic heart disease or anything.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Hasibur Rahman. What we need to do before starting hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin in suspected COVID-19 patient to avoid cardiac complications?
As I said, the azithromycin can causes prolonged QT interval. Hydroxychloroquine also can cause prolonged QT interval. If existing patient ECG is in the borderline, they should be cautious in prescribing this drug. If they need it, they should be monitored, because there is two things happen, either a deadly VT or torsades de Pointes, which is actually a life-threatening disease. It is preferable not to use it. Reason is this: it has been not as per guideline that this drug is definitely work. It is a benefit of doubt. Hydroxychloroquine, now one school of thought that it doesn't have any role. Azithromycin, yes, you can use other antibiotic, because this drug is given to control atypical pneumonia. You have got ample drug that can be used instead of azithromycin, which has got effect on QT. So it is preferable to avoid this drug, as it yet not been defined that
True.
it helps. So unnecessary, why you will raise the stress of complication.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Dr. Anwar from CMCH. He has a query. Dengue season is ahead. How to differentiate between myocarditis due to dengue or due to COVID-19?
I don't have much information about this. But here the basic difference, I think, can be the dengue patient, the platelet count, and also the antibody titer. That is the most important. That can differentiate it from the COVID. COVID, we don't have any antibody test, but dengue has got antibody test. So if you do the test IgG, IgM, and along with the you can differentiate these two, I think. But there is still a very big gray zone. I don't know what will happen in future, because the dengue season is coming. There will be overlapping of symptoms with dengue and COVID. And definitely some percent of the patient will be over-diagnosed, some patient will be under-diagnosed. There is a crucial decision to be taken by the clinician.
Yes, so again, the clinical skill comes.
Yes, yes,
that
definitely.
comes into play. So we'll take another question from Dr. Mamunur Rahman Rubel. You can unmute your microphone and you can ask the question to the sir. Dr. Mamun. ডক্টর মামুনুর রহমান রুবেল, এহসান ভাই ওনাকে একটু আনমিউট করেন, অথবা আমি আই উইল গো টু কোশ্চেন আনসার সেশন। Okay, I'll get back to Mamunur Rahman Rubel. It's Abu Hena Mohammad Jamal. Do COVID-19 patients have a higher incidence of myocarditis, arrhythmias, or acute heart failure compared to non-COVID patient?
Yes, definitely. COVID has got direct effect on myocardium, causing myocarditis. Because it's another clinical presentation. COVID is not the disease of pulmonary symptom, what we usually see in other viral infection. Nowadays, it has, let's say, that it is involved in the myocardium, in the vasculature. So the incidence of myocarditis and vasculitis is more common in COVID patient compared to non-COVID patient.
Okay, so the next question is Probal Chakraborty. The role of SCEI or ARBS in the management of COVID and ischemic heart disease. Role of SCE inhibitor
and ARB, yes, SCE and ARB. Very, very important question, because COVID act internalized by ACE2 receptor. The ACE2 receptor is been balanced by ACE1 receptor, and the target of ARB and ACE is on ACE1 receptor. So in COVID patient, if you give ACE inhibitor, it will downregulate the ACE2. So in the other way, it helps rather than it harms the patient getting ARB or ACE inhibitor. So it should continue it. It helps rather than it harms.
No, thanks. So I've got another question from Subhashish Shah Shubho. Currently, we are using many new drugs like remdesivir, COP inducer, and others. Is there any specific or important drug-drug interaction that we need to consider before prescribing these newer drugs? Or do you need to monitor ongoing cardiac medications like warfarin and others?
So far, I listed that the drug nowadays being remdesivir has got directly no effect of any anticoagulation, anticoagulant. But the other, as I said, chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, they have got the role. Then other two antiviral drugs, remdesivir or ritonavir, these two has got effect on conductive system, cardiomyopathy. So one thing is, none of these drugs definitely proven it has got definite role. If you consider remdesivir, it is not a randomized trial. It has shown that it reduces the hospital stay period of 3 to 4 days, and the number of patients is also not that big. And secondly, it is not been recommended as a guideline. So all these new drugs, before prescribing in a patient with cardiovascular disease, should think twice. As I said, there is no definite proven of this drug. So those patients, say for example, patient having conduction disturbance, you should not use this drug. Patient having already compromised heart, low ejection fraction, you should not use interferon or any antiviral drug, because they has got role on this. You should not use NSAID, because it reduces, increases the waterlogging and reduces further decompensate the heart. So these are the drugs. Before prescribing to a COVID patient, you think twice.
Okay, so what আমাদের অনেক প্রশ্ন আসছে, যারা মাল্টিপল প্রশ্ন করেছেন আমরা আপাতত একটা প্রশ্ন নিচ্ছি যেটা মোর রেলিভেন্ট। আমাদের নেক্সট কোশ্চেনটা আসছে জাকি আহমেদ। why patients with hypertension is at higher risk of developing COVID-19?
It's a good question because about 58% patient having admitted in CCU had hypertension. Exact cause, I'm not sure about this, but thing is that there is also it can be explained in multiple ways. The hypertension, long hypertension itself has got effect on heart in terms of they may be associated with your LV systolic dysfunction, may have coronary artery disease, usually elderly, associated with comorbidity. So all these are in favor of being affected more with COVID rather than individually as a hypertension, as an individual entity to be affected by the COVID. Usually the patient, they are having comorbidity, usually systolic dysfunction, may have coronary artery disease. So that may be, that can be explained in a way the probabilities of this disease.
Okay, thank you, স্যার। আপনার একজন পেশেন্ট জয়েন করেছে, ডাক্তার নাইলা নাহার। উনি বলেছেন আমার কিছু কথা ছিল। Thanks a lot, sir, for your very informative presentation. I want to hear from you about the use of ivermectin and doxycycline for treating COVID-19 patients.
It is also the same. It is also the same. There's one study is already, it has got a huge, what it called, Facebook viral of this drug. It is not new. It has been used in March. That has got some role in COVID-19, COVID virus. But COVID-19, one actually it is an observational study. I should say it is not truly most scientific explanation that has been tested in Bangladesh out of 60 patients. We're not sure about the true outcome of the disease. It was a clinical observation. Although the test in Monash University, Australia, they recommended it that it reduces the viral load 5,000 times if you give in early. That also need to be investigated. Nothing is still, as there is, if there is any no treatment, 100% will come, including, I don't know, somebody will say the tabiz badle hoto bhalo hoye jabe, pani pora khele bhalo hoye jabe. This may be. So it needs to be scientifically proved. Yes, people are giving, no harm to give it. Number one, it is a parasitic disease drug. So if you take two drugs together, there is no harm, if not contraindicated. Like doxycycline, it has got fixed drug eruption in some cases. So there is a drug hypersensitivity. If you are known not to be allergic to drug doxycycline, you can use this. And parasitic disease, it is not that harmful. But there is no, I personally feel no harm to give it, but not sure it will help.
আরেকটু উনি জানতে চেয়েছেন যে নেট প্রো এবিএনপি ইনক্রিজ করলে কি বোঝায় আর চিকিৎসাই বা কি?
NT-proBNP actually it's a marker of left atrial or atrial dilatation. There's volume overload. This is the natriuretic peptide in the blood, indirect evidence of volume overload. So it can increase in patient with heart failure. It can increase with patient with hypertension. For any reason, if there is any volume overload, either because of LV dysfunction or because of viral myocarditis, there is raise in NT-proBNP. And there is a linear correlation between NT-proBNP and D-dimer with the mortality. More the NT-proBNP and D-dimer, more the mortality. So indirectly, you can predict the natural history of the patient by using these two tests. And you should measure it accordingly. So if you unload the fluid there is a chance of reduction in NT-proBNP. Unload the fluid means the diuretics.
ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। আমরা আর 3টা প্রশ্ন নেব। আমাদের সোহেল জানতে চেয়েছে অ্যাসিম্পটোমেটিক, ডক্টর সোহেল, অ্যাসিম্পটোমেটিক কোভিড পেশেন্টের ক্ষেত্রে 14 দিন পর সাধারণত পিসিআর টেস্ট নেগেটিভ হয়। উইথ কার্ডিওভাস্কুলার ডিজিজ যারা হসপিটাল অ্যাডমিটেড আছে তাদের বেলাও কি 14 দিন পরে কোভিড নেগেটিভ হয়ে যাবে?
Quarantine period 14 din is all for the same for the everybody, cardiac or non-cardiac, it is irrelevant.
ওকে,
14 days incubation period.
আচ্ছা, ডক্টর তরিকুল জানতে চেয়েছেন ইজ দেয়ার এনি অ্যাডভান্টেজ অফ টেকিং ক্যালসিয়াম চ্যানেল ব্লকার ইন কন্ট্রোলিং হাইপারটেনশন ডিউরিং কোভিড-19 প্যান্ডেমিক?
Calcium channel blocker, one study it has shown that it increases the 90 days mortality if you use calcium channel blocker. So it is preferable not to use it in calcium for hypertension because a number of drug is available so in the market, like you can use ARB. You see, so calcium channel blocker has got one study is 90 days increase 90 days mortality.
ওকে, দ্য লাস্ট কোশ্চেন। আমাদের যেহেতু নামাজের জন্য বলছে অনেকে, যে এটা সুভাষিস শাহ শুভ, উনি রাজশাহী মেডিকেল কলেজের একটা উদাহরণ দিয়েছেন। ইন রাজশাহী মেডিকেল কলেজ we reported a genetically proved Brugada syndrome patient in Rajshahi back in 2014. Is there any specific precautions or suggestions for that patient, as patients with Brugada syndrome are particularly vulnerable to fatal arrhythmias in situations where the body temperature exceeds 39 degrees centigrade?
The Brugada syndrome, as I said, it's a pro-arrhythmogenic condition. So you should avoid those drugs who has got effect on this arrhythmogenic, like, as I said, hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine, azithromycin, and retinovar. These are the drug has got effect, beta blocker, retinovar and retinovar. So these are the drug has got effect on conductive system. So Brugada syndrome, if patient already known, they should avoid this drug.
ওকে, সো আমরা শেষ পর্যায়ে চলে আসছি। মামুন ভাই কি আসছেন নাকি ইজ নট হিয়ার? আমাদের সাথে এক্সিকিউটিভ ডিরেক্টর আছেন হেলথ কেয়ার ফার্মাসিউটিক্যালস এর মিস্টার MH মুর্তজা। আপনি আমাকে শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
জি, শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
মানে thank you very much for this supporting this wonderful presentation. So apni you can speak a few words before we formally end.
ওকে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ। শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
Yeah.
আচ্ছা, তো আমি হেলথ কেয়ার ফার্মাসিউটিক্যালস লিমিটেডের তরফ থেকে এবং আমাদের সেলস মার্কেটিং সকল সহকর্মীর তরফ থেকে আন্তরিক অভিনন্দন জানাই অর্গানাইজেশন ফাউন্ডেশন অফ ডক্টরস অ্যান্ড অ্যাসোসিয়েশন বিডি ফিজিশিয়ানস, এই সুন্দর একটা প্রোগ্রাম তিনি করছেন, হু ইজ আইকন অফ দ্য ইন্টারভেনশনাল কার্ডিওলজিস্ট, চিফ কনসালটেন্ট ডক্টর মমিনুজ্জামান অফ ইউনাইটেড হসপিটাল। তো এটা একটা অদ্ভুত একটা সময়ে ওনার যে কনসালটেন্ট ওপিনিয়ন হিসেবে যেটা আপনারা টপিক বেছে নিয়েছেন, ফ্যাক্টস এন্ড কনসেপশনস অফ দ্য সিভি ডিজিজ ইন কোভিড প্যান্ডেমিক সিচুয়েশন, ইটস ভেরি রেলিভেন্ট। তো আমরা খুবই মনোযোগ দিয়ে শুনলাম স্যারের এই বক্তব্যটা, ভেরি ডিটেলস এবং খুবই অভিজ্ঞতা প্রসূত ডেলিভারেশন। সেটা আমার মনে হয় যে পার্টিসিপিং যারা ডক্টরস আছেন সবাই খুব উপকৃত হবেন। এবং হেলথ কেয়ার ফার্মাসিউটিক্যালস তরফ থেকে আমি আন্তরিকভাবে কৃতজ্ঞতা এবং অভিনন্দন জানাই ডক্টর মমিনুজ্জামান, কারণ উনি আমাদের এই দেশের একটা প্রথিতযশা ইন্টারভেনশন কার্ডিওলজিস্ট। ওনার অনেক পেশেন্ট আছে, ফ্যান আছে, এবং অলমোস্ট অল ওভার দ্য কান্ট্রি যারা কার্ডিওভাস্কুলার ডিজিজে যুক্ত আছে তারা ওনার নামটা জানেন। এবং ওনার একটা পরামর্শ অনেক বেশি মানুষকে সচেতন করবে এবং মানুষকে আশা জাগাবে। তো আমরা নিজেও জানি যে কোভিড সিচুয়েশনে সব থেকে মর্টালিটি রেট হচ্ছে কার্ডিওভাস্কুলার ডিজিজ যেটা ভুগছেন হাইস্ট গ্লোবালি, এবং বাংলাদেশেও তার ব্যতিক্রম না। পেশেন্টের একটা সবসময় আশঙ্কা রয়ে যায় যে অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি টু দ্য ডক্টরস, পার্টিকুলারলি কার্ডিওভাস্কুলার ডিজিজ যারা ভুগছে তারা কার্ডিওলজিস্টের কাছে অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি, হসপিটাল অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি, এটা ব্যাপারে একটা কনফিউশন ছিল। ওভার দ্য টাইম এটা কেটে গেছে। এখন আমরা খুশি যে বাংলাদেশ সরকার বিভিন্ন ভালো প্রাইভেট হসপিটালে এই আরটিপিসিআর এর ব্যবস্থা করেছেন, যাতে পেশেন্ট ভর্তির আগে বা পরে টেস্ট করে ডাক্তাররা সব রকম প্রিকশন নিতে পারেন। তো এটা আমার মনে হয় যে বাংলাদেশের পেশেন্টের জন্য, পার্টিকুলারলি কার্ডিওভাস্কুলার ডিজিজে ভুগছেন তাদের জন্য ডাক্তারদের চিকিৎসা পাওয়াটা অনেক সহজ হলো। এবং আমরা আন্তরিকভাবে অভিনন্দন জানাই পার্টিকুলারলি সব ডক্টরস কমিউনিটি যারা ফ্রন্ট লাইন সোলজার্স এবং যারা জীবন দিয়েছেন প্রথমেই কোভিড পেশেন্টের জন্য, এবং তাদের উপরে সমস্ত জাতি নির্ভর করে। এবং আমরা যারা ওষুধ কোম্পানি আছি, পার্টিকুলারলি হেলথকেয়ার ফার্মাসিউটিক্যালস, আমরা একদম শুরু থেকে কোভিড সিচুয়েশন যখন চায়নাতে হলো তখন থেকে আমরা প্রস্তুতি নিয়েছি যে কিভাবে আমরা ডক্টরস কমিউনিটি হেলথ সার্ভিসের সঙ্গে সংযুক্ত থাকবো। আপনারা জেনে খুশি হবেন যেমন ডাক্তার ফ্রন্টলাইন সোলজার হিসেবে কাজ করছে, আমরা ফার্মাসিউটিক্যাল কোম্পানি, আমাদের অনেক বাধা বিপত্তি আছে। আমাদের মানুষজনকে কোভিড ফ্রি রাখা একটা চ্যালেঞ্জ ছিল, কারখানা উন্মুক্ত করার একটা চ্যালেঞ্জ ছিল, সব আমরা করেছি। এবং আমাদের সেলস টিম, মার্কেটিং টিম, আমরা তাদেরকে ছুটি দেইনি। তারা এই ঝুঁকির ভেতরে আপনাদের সেবার জন্য সবসময় পাশে আছেন, পাশে থাকবেন। আমি হেলথকেয়ার সম্পর্কে একটু বলতে চাই। হেলথকেয়ার আপনাদেরই সহযোগিতায়, পার্টিকুলারলি কার্ডিওভাস্কুলার প্রোডাক্ট আমরা সব সেগমেন্ট এনেছি। এবং আপনারা জানেন যে আমরা ফার্স্ট বায়োইকুইভ্যালেন্ট প্রোডাক্ট রোসোভাস্টিন আমরা রোভাস নামে দিয়েছি, এবং ফার্স্ট বায়োইকুইভ্যালেন্ট যেটা ট্রাইমেটাজিডিন ভেস্টারেমান নামে আমরা দিয়েছি, যেটার উপর আপনাদের অনেক আস্থা আছে। এবং কার্ডিওভাস্কুলার সমস্ত সেগমেন্টে আমাদের প্রোডাক্ট আছে, যেটা আপনাদের সার্ভিসে সবসময় পেশেন্ট ট্রিটমেন্টে কাজে লাগছে। এবং আপনারা জেনে খুশি হবেন যে নোভেল থার্ড জেনারেশন 1080+ এবং ডাইরেক্ট থ্রম্বিন ইনহিবিটর ডেবিগ্রেটন, এটা আমরা অতি সম্প্রতি আনতে পারবো, আপনাদের পাশে দাঁড়াতে পারবো। তো হেলথকেয়ার ফার্মাসিউটিক্যালস লিমিটেড, আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় মমিনুজ্জামান স্যার জানেন একদম শুরু থেকে উনি আমাদেরকে গাইড করেছেন। উনি আমাদেরকে বালসাটিন আনতে বলেছিলেন, আমরা এনেছিলাম। ওনাদের এবং অন্যান্য সবার সহযোগিতা আমরা দাঁড়াতে পেরেছি। পরে যখন বালসাটিনের পর একটা সন্দেহ আসলো, পরে এটাও অতিক্রম করে আমরা রিলঞ্চ করেছি, এবং আমরা কোডাইসিস ডাইসিস দুটোই রিলঞ্চ করেছি। এবং আপনাদের গাইডলাইন্সে আমরা এসেছি। ইনশাল্লাহ আমরা আপনাদের এই যে যারা ফ্রন্টলাইন সোলজার এবং যারা প্রতিযোগিতা কনসালটেন্ট, পার্টিকুলারলি কার্ডিয়াক সেগমেন্টে যারা আছেন, আমরা তাদের সঙ্গে ছিলাম, তাদের সঙ্গে থাকবো ইনশাআল্লাহ। কোভিড সিচুয়েশন বাংলাদেশে ওয়েল ম্যানেজ, পার্টিকুলারলি ডক্টরসদের ইনভলভমেন্ট মানুষকে অনেক আশা জাগিয়েছে, এবং আমরা আপনাদের পাশে স্যার থাকবো। এবং পার্টিকুলারলি যারা এই ধরনের প্রোগ্রাম, আপনারা সবসময় পরবর্তী যে কোনো প্রোগ্রামে হেলথকেয়ারকে সায়েন্টিফিক পার্টনারশিপে পাবেন, এবং আমরা আপনাদের যে কোনো সেবার জন্য সবসময় উপস্থিত আছি, এটুকু আস্থা আপনারা রাখতে পারবেন। আমি আন্তরিক ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় ডক্টর মমিনুজ্জামান স্যারকে, যারা অর্গানাইজার, যারা অ্যাসোসিয়েশন সবাইকে, এবং সংশ্লিষ্ট পার্টিসিপেন্ট, পার্টিকুলারলি যেসব ডক্টরস কমিউনিটি অংশগ্রহণ করেছেন সবাইকে আন্তরিক ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি। এবং আশাবাদ ব্যক্ত করছি যে ইনশাআল্লাহ এই কোভিড সিচুয়েশনে সমস্ত কিছু আমরা সম্মিলিতভাবে ডক্টরস, পেশেন্টস এবং পিপল, সোসাইটি, গভর্নমেন্ট, প্রাইভেট সব মিলিয়ে আমরা ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি।
জি, থ্যাংক ইউ মুর্তজা ভাই।
সিদ্দিকী স্যার জয়েন করছেন, মিল্টন ভাই এফএম সিদ্দিকী স্যার জয়েন করছেন।
আমি দেখতে পাচ্ছি স্যার
একটু
ওয়েলকাম
বলবেন
স্যার। হ্যাঁ, আপনি একটু বলেন স্যার, আমি জাস্ট 2 মিনিট একটু স্ক্রিন থেকে অফ থাকবো। এহসান ভাই টেক ওভার করেন একটু। আর এখন তাহলে আমরা একটু এফএম সিদ্দিকী স্যারের কথা শুনি। জি, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ সিদ্দিকী।
হ্যাঁ ধন্যবাদ। প্রথমে আমি ধন্যবাদ জানাই আমার অত্যন্ত ঘনিষ্ঠ বন্ধু ডক্টর মমিনুজ্জামান, একটা চমৎকার ইন্টারেক্টিভ সেশন আমাদেরকে উপহার দেওয়ার জন্য। মমিনুজ্জামান সম্পর্কে বলতে হয় যে আমরা এমবিবিএস ফার্স্ট ইয়ার থেকেই আমরা একসাথে বন্ধু হয়ে যাই, এবং সেই বন্ধুত্ব প্রথম একসাথে আমরা রিডিং পার্টনার ছিলাম, এবং সেই বন্ধুত্ব এখনো অটুট আছে। আমি একটু অফ দ্য রেকর্ড যেটা বলতে চাই যে আমার এত দীর্ঘদিনের বন্ধুত্বের মধ্যে ফার্স্ট ইয়ার থেকে আমি যেটা দেখেছি, আজকে মমিনুজ্জামান যে কার্ডিওলজিস্ট হিসেবে বাংলাদেশে একজন আইকন হয়েছে, এর পেছনে ওর স্টুডেন্ট লাইফ থেকে ওর মধ্যে সবচেয়ে যেটা বড় গুণ খুব সিনসিয়ারিটি, প্রত্যেকটা জিনিস ও যেটা করবে খুব সিনসিয়ার মন দিয়ে করবে। আজকে সেজন্যই এতে আছে। তো মৌনজামানের সাথে আমার একটা সংক্ষিপ্ত একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল, যেটা প্রশ্ন প্লাস সাজেশন। সেটা হলো কোভিড-19 একটা ট্রুলি একটা মাল্টিডিসিপ্লিনারি একটা ডিজিজ হিসেবে এস্টাবলিশড হয়ে গেছে, বিকজ সাইমালটেনিয়াসলি ইন্টার্নিস্ট, ইন্টেন্সিভিস্ট, কার্ডিওলজিস্ট এবং হেমাটোলজিস্ট, সামটাইমস নেফ্রোলজিস্ট ইন্টারঅ্যাকশন দরকার। এখন আমরা বিকজ অফ আমাদের যে স্কিল আছে, মৌনুজ্জামানের যে স্কিল আছে, আমরা অনেক সময়, যে মোমিন প্রথমে বলছিল যে ওর একটা ফ্রাস্ট্রেটেড টোন ছিল, যে সে কাজ করতে পারছে না, ওর যে ফিল্ড সেক্টর সেটা করতে পারছে না। কিন্তু আমরা কোভিড হাসপাতালগুলোতে যে ইন্টারঅ্যাক্টিভ যেই আমরা যে জুমের মাধ্যমে, এখন তো ম্যানেজমেন্ট অনেকটাই ভার্চুয়ালে কনভার্ট হয়ে যাচ্ছে অনেক ম্যানেজমেন্ট, সেক্ষেত্রে আমরা একটা ফোকাস বিভিন্ন হসপিটালের সেট আপে একটা স্পেশালিস্ট টিম ব্যাকআপ রাখতে পারি কিনা। যেমন ফার্স্ট লাইনে থাকলো একজন কার্ডিওলজিস্ট, যখন ইমার্জেন্সি কল আসলো সেই কার্ডিওলজিস্ট রোগীটাকে হ্যান্ডেল করলো, ইমিডিয়েটলি ও রিয়ালাইজ করতে থাকলো যে হি ইজ নট এনাফ, হি নিডস সামওয়ান লাইক মৌনুজ্জামান। ও যদি ভার্চুয়ালি ওই সময় রাত 12টা হোক 1টা হোক যদি অ্যাক্সেস থাকে, আর মৌনুজ্জামান জানে যে এরকম ওর একটা কল আসতে পারে যে কোনো একটা হাসপাতাল থেকে, ও কিন্তু ভার্চুয়ালি থ্রু দ্যাট জুনিয়র ডাক্তার সে কিন্তু at the point of care মৌনুজ্জামান চলে যেতে পারে। সো এইটা not only true in case of মৌনুজ্জামান, it is also true in case of other specialists and senior colleagues. So আমি এরকম একটা মৌনুজ্জামানকে জিজ্ঞেস করতে চাই যে এই ধরনের ভার্চুয়াল ইয়েতে ওনাদের কোনো প্ল্যান আছে কিনা, বা এই ধরনের কোনো সাজেশন, বা এটা প্র্যাকটিক্যালি এটা বাস্তবায়িত করা সম্ভব কিনা।
থ্যাংক ইউ সিদ্দিকী, খুব ভালো একটা সময় উপযোগী একটা প্রশ্ন। আসলে প্রতিদিনই আমরা শিখছি, প্রতিদিনই আমরা কোভিড থেকে শিখছি। এখন যেটা আমার প্রবলেম আমরা ফেস করতেছি সেটা হচ্ছে যে many cardiac patients have been underdiagnosed at the very first scene physician, because many of them are not truly cardiologists. তারা এটাকে হয়তো ইসিজি দেখে রিড করতে পারছে না, অথবা পেশেন্টের সিমটম কোরিলেট করতে পারছে না বলে বিধায় আন্ডারডায়াগনোজ একটা গ্রুপ। সেকেন্ডলি, এই পেশেন্টটা যাদের কাছে যাচ্ছে তারাও কিন্তু কার্ডিওলজিস্ট না বিধায় ওই টানেল ভিশনের কারণে এই পেশেন্টগুলা আস্তে আস্তে ডায়াগনোসিসের বাইরেই চলে যাচ্ছে। কিন্তু যখন তারা জানতে পারছে ইট ইজ টু লেট। সো আমার কাছে মনে হয় যে it will be not very difficult in a setting like in my hospital. I am telling about my hospital. এখন পর্যন্ত কার্ডিয়াক ফ্যাসিলিটিস সম্মিলিত হসপিটাল কিন্তু খুব বেশি একটা নাই। আমি যদি ধরি কুর্মিটোলা, আমি যদি ধরি ঢাকা মেডিকেল কলেজ, আমি যদি ধরি আরেকটা হাসপাতাল, এদের ক্যাথ ল্যাব আছে, কার্ডিওলজিস্ট আছে, বাট this cath lab and cardiologist is not enough unless they involve in the treatment facilities. First of all, যিনি primary treatment as intensivist, he should understand the whether this patient need any cardiac consultation. যদি উনি মনে করেন, immediately he can talk with the cardiologist virtually by sending the ECG, telling the history directly, and also can sending the investigation. They can take advice from the specialist. এটা যেমন আমার হাসপাতালে যদি এরকম ভবিষ্যতে এরকম যে আমার হাসপাতালে কোভিড এর পেশেন্ট ভর্তি হচ্ছে, ডেফিনেটলি আই উইল ইনভলভ, বিকজ অটোমেটিক্যালি সেখানে আমার আরো নিচের যারা আছে দে উইল বি ইনভলভ। বিফোর মাই ফাইনাল কনসালটেশন, my specialist will go and they will think, yes, he needs more advanced format of suggestion. They will come to me. Means that any form, cardiologist should involve in the management of severe and critically ill patient, because majority of this patient will ultimately end up with symptom related to cardiac decompensation, arrhythmia, heart failure. So their cardiologist involvement is a must. May not be physically, but definitely virtual. You can use
থ্যাংক ইউ আমি মনে করি যে
regarding the others. Yes, you can make a group. I don't know. Will be that. Yes, I can be. I can happy to be part of that group. If there is a known group, you can make a comprises of intensivist, specialist, respiratory physician, all together make a group. If somebody asks question to this group through this Zoom, we can make a medical board
Yes.
type symptom, board type service. Yes, it is very much possible.
শুধু
But
তাই না,
institution-
পয়েন্ট অফ কেয়ার থেকে আমার মনে হয় মমিনুজ্জামান তোমার কাছে ইসিজি শেয়ার করা যায়, ইকোটাও পয়েন্ট অফ কেয়ার থেকে ওখানে বসে হি ক্যান টক উইথ ইউ
Yes, yes.
ভেরি মাচ। তুমি
Yes.
ইমিডিয়েটলি ওখানে ভার্চুয়ালি ওকে হ্যান্ডেল করতে পারো। তুমি
হ্যাঁ।
বলতে পারো যে এইভাবে তুমি এটা ঘোরাও, তুমি
Yes.
আমি ওই জায়গাটা দেখতে চাই, ওই জায়গাটা দেখো, ও মাই গড ওর তো থ্রম্বাস, তুমি ইমিডিয়েটলি একে ইয়ে করো।
Exactly.
সো তুমি মানে ইউ নিড নট টু বি দেয়ার বাট ইউর সার্ভিস।
It is
সেজন্য-
possible. It is only possible when the hospital has got involvement of cardiologist with this patient. Issue is that the patient getting admission in Corona clinic, Corona hospital, where specialist, even specialist cardiologist is not readily available. They are asked on demand. So that is a major issue, but I think that problem can be solved in a hospital where they have got established cardiac facilities at the institute itself.
স্যার থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। এখন আমি আমাদের এফডিএস এর সম্মানিত মহাসচিব
থ্যাংক ইউ।
শেখ আব্দুল্লাহ মামুনের কনক্লুডিং বক্তব্য দিয়ে শেষ করবো স্যার।
Okay,
আমি
thank
নিজেও
you.
স্যার হসপিটালে
Okay.
আসছি।
Thank you.
আচ্ছা, থ্যাংক ইউ এহসান।
Thank
অনেক
you.
শেখ
ভালো
আব্দুল্লাহ
লাগলো।
মামুন।
Acha,
Sir, many
before that,
thanks, sir.
Before that, I just 1 minute. Is it Murtuza? Seeing Murtuza, he is the friend of one of our friend, Dr.
Yes,
Abbas.
yes, yes.
Yes, is that
Mahbub
Murtuza?
Abbas,
I'm
Murtuza,
seeing
yes.
Murtuza, I just
Same Murtuza,
remember
yeah,
my
yeah.
Abbas.
Yes, yes.
আমি remember
very lucky,
Murtuza.
we are very
Murtuza
lucky.
is a very
We are very
nice soul.
lucky that we got FM Siddiqui, renowned chest specialist.
Murtuza,
Yes.
Murtuza is our very close friend. He was a student Dhaka
Yes.
Medical College, an
Yes,
excellent person.
Hats off to both of the renowned physician, Dr. Mominuzzaman and Dr. FM Siddiqui. Hats off.
Thank you, Murtuza.
Thank you, Murtuza.
টেস্ট করতে দিই।
Thank you for your presence. Okay.
Conclusion remark to anybody?
Huh?
Hasna, Ehsan will conclude the session.
I think,
ধন্যবাদ এহসান। আমি প্রথমেই ধন্যবাদ এবং কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাবো মমিনুজ্জামান স্যারকে এবং ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি সিদ্দিকী স্যারকে আমাদের সঙ্গে যোগ দেওয়ার জন্য। আজকের এই প্রাণবন্ত সুন্দর দীর্ঘক্ষণ অনেক ধৈর্য নিয়ে স্যার সবার কোশ্চেনের অ্যান্সার করেছেন এবং খুব সুন্দর করে তার টপিকের প্রেজেন্টেশন করেছেন। আসলে আজকে জুম্মার সময় আর দীর্ঘায়িত করব না, সবার প্রতি কৃতজ্ঞতা এবং ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আজকে এই সুন্দর আয়োজনের জন্য আমি এহসানকে ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে শেষ করছি।
Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.